Hey guys, welcome back. Reverend here. Today I'm bringing you another Elder Scrolls Online guide. This one focuses on a pure damage dealing sorcerer. This character will bring a lot of potential and be able to deal some major hurt to your enemies. Capable at both single target and multiple target type fighting, I'd recommend this character for group activities because of your lack of defensive capabilities. With that being said, I've played this character entirely solo. Alright, the first thing we're going to talk about is race. For me, personally, there was very little choice when it came down to it. High Elf is my personal favorite spellcaster. However, if High Elves are not your thing, I'd still recommend them anyway. Their passives they receive are all beneficial to spellcasting, magicka, and magicka regen. Hands down, there is no other class with this skill set in the game that's going to deliver as well as the Altmer. The only real alternative race that could still deliver almost as well would be a Breton. The passives they can earn are all focused on light armor, maximum magicka, spell resistances, and reduced magicka cost of spells. The utilities of these passives are very good for a caster, and will help you out in a prolonged fight. However, you're not going to have the same damage output of a high elf later on in the game. With that being said, the choice is yours to decide which you would like to play. If neither of those races are really available to you because of your faction, you can always choose a Dunmer or Dark Elf, as they are the third best spellcasters in the game and a member of the Ebonheart Pact. In this guide, I'll be covering professions somewhat, as I feel they're very important with this character, as it is very fragile and having the best gear possible will be pivotal. I use 3 professions: enchanting, clothing, and woodworking. Make sure to keep your skills with crafting on par with the materials you're finding in the world and your level. You shouldn't have to level the proficiency until around level 15 or higher. I have 1 skill point in extraction for woodworking and clothing, as well as 1 in potency for enchanting. The skills for this build are quite straightforward as a damage dealer. The one thing that differs on this build from my others is that you will use 2 guild active abilities. So make sure when you arrive at the proper city, enlist in the fighters and mages guilds. Now let's go over the more important choices we'll make with our skills. At the very first couple levels you want to put a point in the starting abilities for Destruction Staff, Dark Magic, and Storm Calling. This is to ensure that the skill trees will level up and you unlock further skills. Moving on to Dark Magic, at level 1 you want to put a point into Crystal Shard. This is a long-range, high-damage spell that will put an opponent down fairly quickly and literally. It has a knockdown effect that will come in handy for many situations and keep you alive more than once. The second ability in Dark Magic is ENCASE. It is a multiple target crowd control that roots enemies in place for 4 seconds. It will come in handy as a main form of crowd control, however it deals no damage and will take a slot on your skill bar. I learned this ability early on thinking I would need it for the control it offers, but later on I decided it was unneeded for me. Your playstyle may like it, so just keep that in mind when allocating your skill points. The only passive ability that I took is Unholy Knowledge, as it simply reduces the magicka costs of your spells by a flat percentage, 5% at level 2. This is greatly worth it, as we will be focusing primarily on magicka in this build. Alright, now moving on to Storm Calling. This is where the real potential and damage for this mage comes from. As soon as you can afford the skill point, you should invest it in Mage's Fury. This spell is very cool. It is an instant cast finisher spell that will deal a small amount of damage on cast. The spell lasts on the target for 4 seconds. In that time, if you bring the target to 20% health or lower, the spell will explode with lightning, usually killing the target and damaging nearby enemies. This effect can be morphed to give the caster magicka upon killing an enemy. This is very useful as the spell itself costs very little magicka. The other morph you can choose will make the final explosion deal more AoE damage. While leveling early on I chose magicka, but eventually took the added damage. The choice is yours and both are very viable. Lightning Splash is the other spell that is really fun and awesome to use. It is also an instant cast ability with an AoE effect that lasts for 3 seconds. I use this skill as an opener on most fights, then try to keep the bad guys in the area for the full duration. This skill will shock all enemies in the area for damage every half second. Nearby allies can activate the spell as a conduit that will shock enemies for additional damage. Another good reason to play with a friend. The passives I chose to take from this tree are Capacitor and Energized. Capacitor is straightforward magicka regeneration, which you should try to max. Energized is another very simple passive that makes your storm calling spells deal more damage. Damage equals good. Are you noticing a trend yet? Alright, now let's talk about your ultimate ability, Overload. When storm calling reaches rank 12, you can learn this skill, and I would recommend it no later than level 12. It is an incredible ability. It changes all of your attacks, light and heavy, to shoot lightning from your hands. It will deal lightning damage like the other storm calling abilities. The light attacks, a single click, will make your character shoot lightning orbs at long range, and the heavy attack, holding left click, will cause lightning arc from your hands, dealing damage in a wide cone in front of you every second. If you use this ability right, you can build ultimate up while using it, and keep it active for a very long time, and always having an ultimate active is, well, overpowered in its own way. The morphs are also really cool for this spell, and both are good. The first is Power Overload, that will increase the range and the AoE cone. I didn't grab this one, as I have never had a problem getting enemies in the AoE arc. The second is Energy Overload. This causes the damage you deal to convert into magicka and refund it back to your total pool. This is the one I chose to use because it allows us to keep casting for a long time without having to worry about mana, and get lots of kills in the meantime because of the raw damage of the ultimate. The only weapon I utilize is the Destruction Staff. Altmer have an affinity with them and gain XP 15% faster with them. This allows you to do more damage than the other races with the same exact weapons and learn your skills much faster. When you unlock weapon swapping at level 15, put another staff in it. There will be plenty of skills to fill that second hotbar with a completely different setup, and we'll go over that later. Early on, you'll want to put a point in Destructive Touch. This is the first skill in the Destruction Staff line. This skill is personally not a favorite of mine, nor is it very needed with this build, but you will need it early on if you want to level up your staff at all. The next ability is Wall of Elements. This is a large AoE spell that will put an effect on the ground that corresponds to your staff's damage type. I'd recommend Ice for the large slow effect it will put on enemies. Fire will burn your enemies for additional damage, and Lightning will deal splash damage to nearby enemies. This skill can be morphed early on and will yield two very good effects. The first is a larger area, much larger, and is a lot of fun. However, I would recommend the second morph, Unstable Wall of Elements. This morph will make the effect explode at the end of its duration, dealing a fair amount of damage. I take this one over the other because you can always use this ability more than once if you wish to have a larger area. Plus, those ones that explode deal far much more damage. The final ability I use is Weakness to Elements. This skill is very straightforward and awesome. It lowers all elemental resistances of your enemies by 40%, which is a huge amount and lasts for 15 seconds. Also, this skill will not pull aggro on an unsuspecting target and can be used multiple times before a fight. Keep in mind that the damages from the skill tree Dark Magic are not elemental damage and therefore will not have the damage boosted by Weakness to Elements. The passives that I utilize from Destruction Staff are Tri-Focus, Penetrating Magic, and Elemental Force. All of them so far for us. These passives are great to grab. Your staff will end up doing more damage than you would think because of the racial passives and all of our stacking buffs. Tri-Focus is recommended because it makes your staff attacks and spells receive an effect that corresponds with the damage type of said staff. It will cause Ice to slow, Fire to increase critical strike chance, and Lightning to arc. Penetrating Magic is another straightforward passive that will make your staff's damages bypass a percentage of the enemy's resist, further increasing your damage. Finally, Elemental Force is a good one to pick up when you can for its utility. It simply increases the chance that your targets will be affected by your staff's damage types and status effects. For armor, the only type I chose to use is Light Armor, because it is the best option for DPS as a magic user. Its passives will allow for greater magicka use and regeneration, spell resistance, and critical strike chance with spells. The active ability for Light Armor, Annulment, I am currently thinking about picking up because it seems it would be nicely fit with my offhand skill set. It places a damage-absorbing shield around you for 20 seconds and reduces all spell damage you take by half for that duration. It's very situational, but it could save your life one day. Now, you remember when I said you need to learn and level up your Fighters and Mages Guild? There are two skills that I use at the moment from these trees. The first being Mage Light from the Mages Guild. It will give your spells a very nice critical strike chance as well as detect stealth around your character, but that's more for PvP, so we're not too focused on that. I use this and leave it active the entire time. I have seen the effect firsthand what a critical strike spell can make, and sometimes you get lucky. The effects can be devastating and life-saving. The morph that I chose for this is Inner Light. It makes the critical strike chance of all spells 17%, a very nice bonus for 5% of your max magicka. The second skill that I use is from the Fighters Guild. It is Circle of Protection. It puts a large ward on the ground, and all allies inside will gain armor and spell resistance. This ability costs stamina, not magicka, and therefore it should be easy to sustain the entire fight, as we really won't be using any of it for our abilities in combat. Now let's go over the weapon sets and hotbars that I utilize. The first is my Fire Staff and my DPS hotbar. I keep this one a Fire Staff because of the increased critical strike chance from our fire spells. I also keep Mage Light as my 5th slot and keep it active. This will further increase your spell critical chance. The offhand skill set I have uses a Lightning Staff or Frost Staff for utility and protection. I keep Soul Trap on this hotbar, so I have the skill active and available for filling soul gems. And the 5th slot on this one is Circle of Protection. If your team is in trouble, you can just swap to your offhand and provide some utility and safety to your comrades. However, switching to this weapon will negate the effect of Mage Light, so remember to reactivate it when you go back to DPS. So I met a guy earlier who questioned me that my ultimate abilities will actually kill most enemies, common mobs, in under 4 seconds and is a great ability for grinding. So let's see what we can do. That was worth 160 experience. And it took, what, 3.5 seconds of my time? Yeah. So if you're in a good area where mobs spawn fairly quickly, you can grind levels out very easily just by spamming your ultimate. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good break from questing, you know, so you can get your levels in other ways than just grinding out quests. This gives you a chance to get some good drops, make money. I make a lot of money just selling the white items that I get just from doing this. That's a lot of fun, and it's worth more experience in questing. So, and it obviously works. Alright guys, I think this just about wraps it up, and I've covered just about everything. Remember that your character is yours to make your own, and the ideas that I offer in my guides are simply that. They're my ideas. I'm completely open to all forms of criticism, so if I have made a mistake or provided some dumb advice, feel free to let me know. If you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and post them in the comments section for others to see, so that they can learn from your questions and I won't get multiples. I try to get an answer to each and every one of them, and I check them daily. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It really motivates me to make more of these guides. Thanks for watching, and good luck on the battlefield.